चिंकी, आज मैं स्कूल नहीं जाऊंगा। आज मैंने अपना होमवर्क पूरा नहीं किया है। मैंने भी नहीं किया है चिंटू। आज तो हम दोनों की स्कूल में बहुत पिटाई होगी। अगर किसी भी तरह बारिश आ जाए तो हम स्कूल जाने से बच सकते हैं चिंटुआ। लेकिन बाहर तो धूप निकली हुई है, तो बारिश कैसे होगी? अरे तुम दोनों अभी तक स्कूल नहीं गए? पापा आज हम स्कूल नहीं जाएंगे। क्या? चल 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 चल, तुम दोनों को स्कूल तक घसीट कर ले जाऊंगा। छोड़ दो पापा मुझे, हम स्कूल नहीं जाएंगे। हमने होमवर्क नहीं किया है। होमवर्क नहीं किया तो क्या, तुम्हें स्कूल तो जाना ही पड़ेगा। वो मास्टरवा हमें बहुत मारेगा पापा। मारेगा तभी तो तुम दोनों की अकल ठिकाने आएगी। हे ऊपर वाले, बारिश बरसा दे रे। तेरे कहने से बारिश नहीं आ जाएगी। तुम दोनों तो आज स्कूल जाकर ही रहोगे। अरे बारिश होने लगी चिंटू। बारिश होने लगी, 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 बारिश होने लगी। अब स्कूल नहीं जाएंगे। अभी अभी इतना तेज धूप था और अचानक बारिश होने लगी, वो भी मूसलाधार बारिश। नाच चिंकिया, खूब नाच। आज हम स्कूल जाने से बच गए। आज तो मजा आ गया चिंटू। अरे इतना तेज बारिश हो रहा है कि गांव में पानी भरने लगा। अरे चिंटू और चिंकी, जल्दी से घर चलो। लगता है गांव में बाढ़ आने वाला है। क्या बाढ़? तब तो और मजा आ जाएगा चिंकिया। कई दिनों के लिए हमारी छुट्टी हो जाएगी। पानी तो बहुत तेजी से बढ़ रहा है। अरे तुम सब ये देखो, पानी घुटनों तक आ गया है। अब जल्दी से जल्दी घर चलो। आप जाओ पापा, हम तो पानी में खेलेंगे। ठीक है तो खेलो, मैं जा रहा हूँ। अरे चिंकिया, पानी तो हमारे कमर तक आ गया है। लगता है सच में बाढ़ आ गया है। तो अब क्या करें चिंटुआ? चलो घर चलते हैं। चिंटू हिलना मत। क्यों, क्या हुआ? अरे तुम्हारे ऊपर पानी वाला सांप चढ़ गया है। क्या? सांप। अरे ये तो मेरे कंधे पर ही चढ़ गया है। मुझे बचा ले चिंकिया। रुको, देखो वहाँ पर एक डंडा पड़ा हुआ है। उस डंडे से ही सांप को भगाती हूँ। तो जल्दी भगाओ। अब देखो सांप को कैसे मारती हूँ। सांप को ही मारना, मुझे मत मारना। अरे सांप को ही मारूंगी। अब ज्यादा मत बोलो, नहीं तो सांप तुम्हें काट लेगा। ठीक है, नहीं बोलूंगा। मुझे ही मार दिया। अब तुझे छोड़ूंगा नहीं चिंकिया। भाग, तू कहाँ भाग के जाएगी? मैं तो सांप को ही मार रही थी चिंटुआ, लेकिन गलती से तुम्हें मार दिया। मुझे छोड़ दो। छोड़ दूं? तूने मेरे सर पर इतना तेज डंडे से मारा है, मैं भी तुझे उतना ही तेज मारूंगा। अरे रुको चिंटू, और वहाँ देखो, उस टोकरी में एक छोटा बच्चा पानी में बह रहा है। अरे हाँ रे चिंकिया, चलो पास से देखते हैं उसे। अरे ये तो हमारा ही बाबू है। ये मर गया क्या?
The night the river broke its banks, everyone swore they heard a bell ringing from the darkness, slow and deliberate, as if warning the village to wake before it drowned. By the time lanterns flared and doors burst open, the first cry rose, the buffalo. And through the rain they saw him standing at the edge of the fields, massive and calm, eyes shining with a knowing that felt almost human. He did not run. He did not bellow. He simply turned, once, and waited, as though asking who among them would trust him enough to follow. The buffalo had been born on a summer morning when the air smelled of wet grass and promise. They named him Neil for the deep blue-black of his hide, and from the start he was different. He learned paths before the elders taught him, avoided marshy ground without ever sinking, and paused at crossroads as if weighing consequences. Rahim, the young herder who grew up beside him, noticed it first. When Rahim stumbled, Neil lowered his shoulder. When the herd panicked at thunder, Neil stood firm and the others quieted. People laughed and said animals copied habits. Rahim knew better. There was a steadiness in Neil, a listening presence, as though he understood not just commands but worries. The village depended on the river and feared it in equal measure. One season it fed their crops, another it demanded payment. The elders argued about embankments and prayers, while merchants pushed for more land, more speed, more profit. Rahim's father, once a patient man, began to rush. "Tie him tighter," he told Rahim. "Work him harder." Neil bore it without complaint, yet on certain evenings he refused to cross a particular bend near the river. He planted his hooves and would not move. Rahim felt the refusal like a hand on his chest. He began to watch the water there, how it lapped at the soil, how small cracks widened after storms. One afternoon, strangers arrived with papers and plans. They spoke of a new road, straight and fast, cut through the fields to the river's edge. Compensation would come later. The elders hesitated, but money has a loud voice. Rahim tried to speak about the bend, the cracks, the way Neil refused that ground. Laughter met him. "A boy listening to a buffalo," someone scoffed. That night Rahim found Neil staring toward the river, ears flicking, tail still. Rahim pressed his forehead to the animal's warm neck and felt a low vibration, like a hum, like thought. The rains came early. Day after day the sky emptied itself. The river rose, quiet and patient, then quickened. Rahim led Neil to higher ground when he could, but the roadwork had narrowed paths and stolen soil. On the night the bell rang, no one ever found a bell. Rahim woke to Neil's breath at the door, a soft insistence. The buffalo turned toward the old mango grove on the hill, the one path untouched by machines. Rahim followed, heart pounding, as Neil stopped and looked back again and again, until others joined, until a line of flickering lights moved uphill. Behind them, the river tore free. Water swallowed the bend, the road, the embankment that was never finished. Houses at the edge collapsed like tired men sitting down. By dawn the village stood shivering on the hill, alive. Loss weighed heavy, but life remained. When the elders asked how Rahim knew, he pointed to Neil, who chewed calmly, mud on his legs like a badge. No one laughed then. They rebuilt farther back. They listened more. Neil was no longer just a beast of burden. He was a guardian whose silence taught patience. Years passed, and stories grow taller with time, but the truth stayed simple. Neil aged, his steps slower, his eyes softer. Children fed him fruit and whispered secrets into his ears. Rahim married and had a daughter who learned to walk by holding Neil's tail. The village prospered without haste, respecting the river's moods. And yet pride, like weeds, always returns. The second hook came on a bright, careless morning when Rahim's daughter, Amina, ran crying through the square, shouting that Neil had broken the gate and wandered toward the market road, where carts thundered past without looking. People cursed. Old and stubborn, they said. Rahim ran, heart clawing at his ribs, to find Neil standing squarely in the road, refusing to move while drivers yelled and raised whips. Beyond Neil, a bus sped toward a curve where the road dipped, where, unseen, the ground had been hollowed by weeks of leaking water. Neil did not flinch. A whip cracked. He lowered his head, not in anger, but in resolve. The bus swerved, brakes screaming, and skidded to a stop inches from the collapse as the earth gave way ahead in a roaring sink. Dust rose. Silence followed. People stared at the sudden pit, at the bus trembling on intact ground, at the buffalo breathing steadily, as if he had known exactly how much time remained. The officials came with cameras and speeches. They praised quick thinking, brave drivers, modern safety. Rahim stood apart, one hand on Neil's neck, feeling the familiar hum. That evening, Neil lay down and did not rise again. His breath slowed like a river easing after flood. The village gathered, not with bells, but with bowed heads. Amina pressed her ear to Neil's side and said she could still hear the hum, like a story finishing its last line. They buried Neil beneath the mango grove, where roots hold the hill together. The elders placed no statue. Instead, they changed a rule. Before any decision that cut land or rushed water, they would walk the ground in silence and listen. Rahim taught Amina to watch for signs that do not shout. The way birds lift before storms, the way soil smells before it slips, the way wisdom often arrives wrapped in patience and fur. Long after, travelers passing the grove would swear they heard a bell when the river rose, a low, thoughtful sound reminding them to slow down. The village learned that intelligence is not always loud or quick, that leadership can be heavy-footed and gentle-eyed, and that sometimes the bravest thing a heart can do is stand still until others are safe.